Hello, and welcome to Retrospective Cinema, a podcast wherein we'll endeavor week after week to see the full filmographies of chosen directors. We'll interpret, critique, and discuss. I am your co-host, Annie Morell.
And I am your other co-host, Ryan Saylor. This week, we dive into Fellini's first English language film, kind of, an erotic or not erotic film adapting the life of the real man, Casanova. This is Fellini's Casanova. Here's the clip.
I know your reputation, Signor Casanova. I'm an ardent admirer of yours. If I were a woman, I would assuredly have already sought your bed. I've heard tell of prodigious exploits.
Thank you, sir. The admiration of a nobleman such as yourself is flattering indeed.
Once again, that was from Fellini's Casanova. This was a first watch for me, and it was quite a watch. I'm excited to talk about it with you. Up front, we are a full spoiler podcast, although this is one of those weeks where it really doesn't matter.
We've all read Giacomo Casanova's autobiography, right?
No.
We've all.
I'm not sure what historical context you brought coming into this, but I did not know that Casanova was a real person. I thought that was just a phrase. Like, this guy's a real Casanova.
I think I vaguely knew it was a real guy. Like the term came from a real guy, but literally that's it. That's all I knew.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll start by just asking, what were some of your initial thoughts on this?
I ended up watching this in 3 pieces. It's 2.5 hours. It is a behemoth in many ways. I started it too late, 2 times, too late in the night. And that's why that happened. I feel like I've been processing it for days, but also I just finished it right before this. So I think my initial reaction was I did not like this because I think I did not like the character of Casanova. And I didn't quite yet process that actually this entire film is lambasting, a lampooning of this guy. I genuinely was like, this is this is a biographical film, and it's a biopic, if you will. It's not really. And so now as I'm like in real time going to process this film with that lens, I think I'm going to like it more. I was like in the middle, before we started recording, I was in the middle of being like, oh yeah, like this and that. And like all these things happened to support this. And I was just kind of ignoring them because I was like, I hate this guy. Like, why am I watching this guy? Why do I care about this man's life? He sucks.
That's so interesting. From the first time that we get the POV shot of Donald Sutherland sweating, thrusting on you, I was like, wow, sex has never looked so grotesque and so unappealing as it has in this movie. And that clued me in pretty quickly that this was gonna not be admiring the character of Casanova, because sex has looked great in other Fellini films, or sometimes funny, sometimes erotic.
That's a good point.
But never disturbing, never something that I want no part of. And yeah, the sex in this movie, it could not be less appealing.
I see what you mean. I think I didn't take that as a hint, as you did, only because the way that this is filmed, the way that this is styled, the way that this is acted, it's all incredibly outrageous.
Mm-hmm.
It's melodrama often. So I kind of just took that as like, oh, this is another outrageous element.
You were talking about the design of this. Yeah, I think that is probably the most successful element of this film. I'm lukewarm on it as of writing, but I'm excited to talk through it with you. But I do love that after so many films of Fellini removing the artifice, this one constructs the thickest artifice in maybe any of his films. It is clearly all shot on soundstage. Big elaborate sets, lots of fog machines and backlighting. One of the early shots, and probably the most egregious example of this, is he sails through an ocean made of trash bags. Where, yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, the water is just all, I think, trash bag lighters, and that's what creates this water effect. So the film does not look real at any point, but even then, it's beautiful, and it's the mise en scène, the design of it all is glorious. And That is
Yeah, the costuming.
yes, and that is an absolute contradiction to how sex looks in this, which is just unappealing.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. Like, now I'm looking, like, that is a great example of an element that I'm talking about that I'm like, oh yeah, duh.
But you just assumed it was bad, but not on purpose.
Yeah. But now, like, looking at these elements, the bad sex, even the way that he is, and I was reading about it a little bit, the way that he is styled, I didn't realize, and now it makes sense because he does look really weird. Donald Sutherland is wearing prosthetics to make him look garish. Obviously, he's got this ridiculous wig that has just an absurd hairline really far back. He looks like he has a giant forehead. He dresses pretty garishly as well, and I get it, you know, and the things he says don't match up with the things he does, like the values that he espouses to people. I don't see that in his actions a lot of the time. So I get it now. In general, I wasn't expecting something in the 1970s just in general, and maybe it's because it's in English. Maybe that's part of it too. I wasn't expecting it to be this progressive, I guess. And I think my brain maybe automatically put it in that context of like, yeah, this is from a different time. So like these things were okay. Not only is the sex not enjoyable, but there is some non-consensual sex happening in this film throughout, and some straight up sexual assault happening, straight up assaulting minors at different points. It's rough. And even though I know Fellini to be very progressive for his time, like we've talked a lot about that, I think that's genuinely why. Anyway, that's my best explanation of why I had that initial just like horrible reaction to this.
Yeah, no, that would ruin the film if you thought we were supposed to root for him, for sure. But I mean, this 76 is Taxi Driver, is All the President's Men, Network. The times were a changin'.
That's true.
Although I guess, yeah, Taxi Driver still gets misconstrued to this day, so maybe that wasn't the best example. But it's not meant to be, you know, what some people have taken it as. Well, we had very different struggles, but I'll introduce mine. I think what held me back from this film, because it is in line with something like Satyricon, where it's massive and colorful and non-narrative, and I was kind of actually excited to return to that with Fellini because I was so drawn to Satyricon. I think one of my problems with this, and what's initially holding me back, is that this film adds the element of character study. Like, it is very much looking at Casanova and figuring out why he is the way he is, why he is this shell of a human, why he is, you know, mechanical is the constant motif in the film.
Sure.
And I don't know that piece of the film, which is so much of it, is justifiable to me, at least this second, for as long as the film is. Because every other character study I've seen is about trying to, you know, get to the core of it, whatever person. And there are great character studies that are all about people that have meaningless sex. Naked is that. Shame is that.
Nymphomaniac.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's way longer even.
Yeah.
But this character is so empty that spending this much time with him to get to the conclusion that he is just a shell did not feel satisfying to me. And maybe it's not supposed to, but I really struggled with that. I struggled with Fellini adding this huge piece of this film and the answer to that piece being just nothing. So I think as I've sat with the film, not very long, I watched it today before recording, but that has bothered me and been holding me back for sure.
You don't think that that's kind of the point?
Well, no, I do, but
that this man's life, like even hearing about this man's life is like a waste. Like he's wasting your time.
Watching the film is a waste of time. No, I'm just kidding.
No. Do not twist my words. No, to what extent do you think this is Fellini also projecting his own fears, because to me this has a very similar feel to La Dolce Vita. It's like very grand, and there's all this excess happening throughout, and then you get to the end and he has nothing, and yeah, he's a shell and his life is meaningless. And especially Casanova, being historically infamous as a romancer, as a famous male lover. And you think about, like, we've talked a ton throughout about how Fellini was known as kind of a womanizer and was cheating on his wife, and that he has tremendous guilt about that. And he's made several films about how he has tremendous guilt about that. And this feels like just another kind of level of penance for him.
Yeah.
I think I understand why the length is there. Even though I'm not even saying I don't disagree with you, for the record. I do think this is too long. My personal feelings about long movies.
Sure. I think, I like all of the pieces of it. Like, I like the mechanical motifs. I like the strange thrusting that he does during sex. I like that all of these women that he seems to be intimate with recoil from him. And I do very much like the final scenes. And we'll get to those. But I just don't know that it all amounts to enough. The point of the film seems to be, to me at least, ultimately, fulfillment through sex doesn't exist. Which is interesting in Fellini's filmography because, he has been so positive on eroticism up to this point. But here he seems to say, sex without love, but I don't even know that we get that far. It's sex without anything other than sex is meaningless.
Well, yeah. I feel like most people would agree with that.
Right. Well, I guess that's what I'm saying. It's like, that's great.
Oh, like, if that's the message, then why did I need to spend?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. That's why I think it's a lot more of a self-flagellation. I think it's him, really you use the source material of the man's autobiography and you turn it into a critique of him, a criticism of him, and even going as far as saying, like, we shouldn't even be remembering this man. Why are we reading this book? Why are we remembering this man while simultaneously extending his legacy? And I kind of feel like that we've seen, again, Fellini grapple with, like, oh, well, what is my legacy going to be?
Mm-hmm.
And do I deserve to last? Does my art deserve to last? Is what I've done something that should be remembered?
Okay.
And even, will I be remembered for that, or will I be remembered as a cad? Will that become my story? I think the big difference there is it seems like the real Casanova never did anything but, live as a womanizer. But Fellini has made a lot of great art at this point. Like, he has awards. You'd think he should know. And yet there's this insecurity that I feel like is still this late in the game coming through his work. So I find that interesting. Again, I don't think it's successful 100% ultimately. It seems like I'm trying to argue with you. I'm not.
No, but it's good to get to the bottom of it. Yeah, I do like that because Casanova is ultimately supposed to be this person that's a writer and a poet. And at the end of the film, when he's old and yelling for macaroni, which I did think was funny.
Me too.
he comes down, to read his poetry and no one cares. And ultimately, there's dramatic irony that we, the viewer, know that all he's remembered for is all the sex he had. So I can see what you're saying, that is Fellini processing his own legacy again.
And how you can't even control your own legacy, really.
Right.
Ultimately. But, I think he does it probably better in some of his other works already.
I wondered what specifically made him want to make this film, because as I read about it, it seems like the point of the film ultimately are those final moments, the mechanical doll sequence or series of sequences. But in reading about it, at least the story goes that was written after they started filming.
What?
When Fellini sat down to make it, he just wanted to relentlessly bash this historical figure and make a purely unlikable character, and then, like, as he made the movie, he gained a sympathy, and then that comes through in those final scenes. So yeah, I'd be curious if you are right that, like, is that really just what made the material appealing, or it's a strange project for this point in his career. Especially, I've been trying to keep track of the narrative arc, I guess, for lack of better phrasing, of his films. And we're kind of in between things. Like I said, Roma kind of wrapped stuff up, and then Amarcord was kind of a throwback. I don't know that this points forward, and I'm not sure Fellini knows what he wants his films to look like at this point. But yeah, I'd be curious. I wish there were more interviews from the time of him saying, like, oh, this is what made me want to do this one.
Well, it would be in Italian, so you can understand it anyway.
I have the technology.
I know. Should we get into the nuts and bolts of this strange odyssey?
Sure.
It begins in Venice.
Mm-hmm.
We start in Italy. Actually, before we go into this, it begins in Venice. And one thing that happened before I watched this, or right as I was starting to watch it, was I asked Ryan, I was like, wait, is this in English? You would think yes, of course, because Donald Sutherland is an American.
Yeah, the answer is kind of.
The answer is kind of. And yeah, and Ryan's answer to me was like, all these languages are listed as being spoken in this. And it makes sense, sort of, that there are so many languages, and that, yes, this character goes all around Western Europe in the course of this story. And yet this is an Italian man speaking English. So why is everyone else sometimes speaking the right language?
Well, it's even more complicated than that. There are two primary versions of this film. Based on what you're saying, I assume you watched it in English as well. I did too, because it seems to be the easier version to find at this point. But there is a version fully dubbed, at least all the English parts would be fully dubbed in Italian also, which at that point, Donald Sutherland is dubbed over, and his dialogue is the vast majority of the dialogue. So English is probably the way to go, but...
And he's not really dubbed that much in this. Thank goodness.
Well, he's dubbing himself, but he is dubbed.
Well, he does a way better job than anyone else.
Yeah, he's good at lining up his lip flaps. I don't know what to call them.
His bilabial motions.
Okay. Go off.
Thanks. I took a voice in college. Thank goodness, because my complaint stands for the dubbing. I think it's absolutely atrocious when it does not match up.
Yeah.
And it's in a language that I speak. And it's very distracting to me. But that honestly makes sense that he is dubbed in Italian in Italy. It's what they've been doing.
Right.
We went through this debate when we were doing Satoshi Kon. Like, I want to hear the actual actor's vocal performance, not some Italian dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's especially interesting here because up to this point in Fellini's career, there have been lots of English actors dubbed over in Italian, but then there isn't an English version of the film. And this one, yeah, the quote-unquote primary version is the English version, but both are official versions of the film, so it's interesting. We did talk about this level of the problem. I referenced Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, where there's no official language of that film, but
right.
Yeah, this one has two.
That's cool, I guess. I don't know. It was different watching a mostly English Fellini film. So anyway, we start out in Venice. There's like a Venus festival happening. A ship sinks. We start getting bombarded with costumes. There's a costume party, and Casanova is revealed to be in what was my favorite costume. So I was really happy it was him, which is a ghost in a little hat, in a little like tri-corner hat, like tinier than it should be for the size of the ghost head. And then we pretty quickly transition into the cucking scene where a fake nun calls upon Casanova, and she reminds me of Bjork if she were in Star Wars. Like, she kind of sounds like Bjork. And she wants him to sleep with her while her husband, who is like a French ambassador, watches through a fish painting. And the start of this film, I was like, yes, this is what I've been wanting from Fellini for so long, like a narrative film. It's ridiculous in this, newer style of his. And they do this, there's this whole like foreplay sequence that's the funniest kind of acrobatic sequence between the two of them. Then they actually start having sex, and she initially, when it first starts getting actually going, she initially is saying no. many times. And I was like, oh no. And he does not stop. And then they have sex. And then at the end, she says, I love you. And I was like, what have I gotten myself into? What is this? I was horrified because that wasn't initially the way this scene is presented to me, because it ends with the I love you and it seems like a positive thing for all involved overall. I took it to be like, yep, that was all fine because of that. And so I think that's why immediately for the rest of the time I was like, no, I hate this. I don't like what this is saying. Like, that just shut me down.
I really just want to know how you saw the sweatiest, strangely lit Donald Sutherland thrusting into the camera and said, this is meant to be erotic.
I didn't think it was meant to be erotic. I thought it was meant to be ridiculous. So it's not literally pornographic. Immediately after that, we get Casanova eating oysters, which again, I was like, oh, that makes sense for this character that's supposed to be a great lover. Like, he's eating the aphrodisiac food. Okay. We get the return of weird performances in this.
Yeah, thank goodness.
Thank goodness. It's sprinkled throughout, weird performances. Yeah, he's at this party and then he has this gross dance with one of the like maids, and she's like this young frigid girl who faints, and that immediately he's like, yep, that's the one I want, the fainter. She kind of looks like a haunted doll. Her name's Anna Maria.
There is one good joke here. Honestly, this one wasn't very funny to me. I saw that it's classified as a comedy something, like a mix of things. But overall, definitely not much of a comedy, to my taste at least. But I did like when she passed out the second time, and they're like, doctor, what do we do? And he's like, well, we bleed her again.
Yeah.
That was very funny.
Surely that can't be causing the problem.
Right.
Yeah, so she faints a couple times. The second time, Casanova's like, I got this. And he starts having sex with her as she's unconscious. Once again, I said, oh no, this is not good. And his theory, I guess, is that the sex will cure her ailment.
Like a Sleeping Beauty kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. And she truly is a child. And it kind of works. Or that's how he feels about it anyway. That it worked.
Yeah, I did wonder at that point in the film if there was going to be this element of, here's the stories from the memoir and the results are going to be what he wrote, but we're going to see that clearly there's bias in the writing. It's like, yeah, this girl wakes up and she had a great time, but watching it happen is disgusting. But I think the film kind of doesn't do that again in that way. So, but at that time, I thought that's what I was going for.
Yeah, later on when they have the sex contest, that girl does not look happy.
No, yeah.
The entire time, and after she like turns away. So, yeah. I do wish there was a little more consistency in that. And maybe that was also my struggle in thinking that it was condemning these acts just because there was no, like, yeah, it wasn't like, oh, here's the reality and then here's what he thinks every time. It was kind of a different thing every time.
Maybe it transitions into reality because it's those first couple encounters where it looks bad, but then it works out. But then by the end of the film, everything just is always bad.
Okay, I like that. I will have to, as we go through, I'll see if that holds. Because there's a lot of ladies. He beds a lot of women and girls in this. Then we move on to a gay little dinner party. They're having this debate about whether women have like full souls, essentially. The host,
weird.
Yeah, it's very weird. The host of the dinner party, who the entire time I was like, well, this is a gay coded character, and then he just ends up being gay. He says the Queen of Sheba is deficient in soul, like all women. And he says women lack the noble soul. And Casanova is more the voice of reason in this, but still, it's clear he has more reverence for women than this guy, but less reverence for women than I think he should have, considering their involvement in his life. He, to me, like, is often infantilizing women and...
Yeah, it's objectification, like, to the T.
Absolutely. That they're beautiful little creatures, and that's really cool to him. And there's, like, a MILF that he's kind of eyeing on the other side of the dinner table from him. then the lady asks Casanova to impregnate her so that she can transfer her soul into her baby son as he's being born so that she can live forever as a man. That is real. That is what happens.
That's what happens, yes. And we've all been there.
Who among us hasn't tried to achieve immortality and gender affirming care ?
There you go.
From the great work. Yeah, it's odd.
Yeah, the individual scenes don't really matter all that much like Satyricon. It's kind of just how it all adds together. We get this full picture of the way he treats women, the excess, the lack of anything beneath the surface on this man. But yes, at that party in particular reminded me of a similar party from, I think, yeah, it's in La Dolce Vita, I think, where they're talking about Asian women problematically. But that film, earlier in Fellini's career, checking in with the audience, there's a lot of characters there to be like, oh, I don't like this. I think at this point he trusts the audience to know him, so we don't get that. But we are slightly worse off for it, right? There isn't a voice of reason, or if there is, it's coming from a character that's also deplorable.
Yeah.
And we kind of just sit there and say, wow, everything here sucks. So it's both successful and yeah, I do think a little worse off for it.
Yeah, maybe that is what I was missing here, is just any contrast, because I think you're right that he is deplorable, but everyone around him is pretty equally deplorable.
Right.
Sometimes in different ways, but yeah, so there's nothing, it's like without darkness there can be no light. Like, it's hard to even really see how terrible this man was. I'm just finding more reasons why I didn't catch that this was a harsh criticism.
The closest we get is the scene toward the end where he talks to his mom. She's the closest to a voice of reason in the film.
But she also sucks.
Yes, but she's able to get him to acknowledge some of his problems. Like she's like, why haven't you called? Why don't you send money?
Well, because he didn't have her address.
Well, but that's clearly an excuse, because then, once she leaves, he's like, forgot to get her address again,
I took it to be that she didn't want him to contact her, like, actually.
I mean, maybe that's true, too. I'm saying, yeah, she's not the best voice of reason still.
Yes.
But I think she is the closest we get to someone.
Fair. Yeah, he has a couple more excursions, I guess, with some ladies. He uses...
There's a really tall woman.
Oh, yes. Well, the giantess. He's like about to kill himself in a river, stones in his pockets, and in the distance he sees this giant lady and two little people, and he's like, hey you, and she's just kind of walking away, and so he goes to find her. And then there's this was maybe my favorite sequence now that I'm thinking about it, because I did really like her character. Maybe she's the voice of reason. They're in this like pub, and all the men are seeing how long that they can last arm wrestling her, like how many seconds, because she's a giantess, like she is stronger than the strongest man there. There's a guy with huge muscles that goes up. They're like, oh my gosh, she lasted 6 whole seconds. That's crazy. And this is, I think, the most direct evidence as well of like, this guy sucks and Fellini thinks he sucks, because Casanova goes over and he's like, I can do it, I got this, and then he's struggling with her and he whispers to her, please let me win, please let me beat you, and she doesn't. To her credit, she doesn't. But it's like, this guy really only cares about appearances and not actual success or accomplishment, only the appearance of accomplishment.
Yeah, he is, as the film keeps visually showing, which, yeah, if you're just listening to this and you haven't seen it, there are, the big one, there's in just about every scene, there's this strange mechanical rooster that's neck extends like a phallus. And at first, the first time it happened, I was like, I see the phallic imagery. But the more it happens, it's like, oh, no, that's Casanova. He is just this mechanical robot that, does his sex job, and that's about it.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have anything going on beneath the surface.
It literally only, like, there's this specific bit of music that plays along with this imagery of this mechanical bird expanding its neck, and it's only ever when he is having sex. It's like his sex music.
Which I hated the score. I don't know how. And it's clearly meant to be disruptive.
Yeah.
So it's hard to really condemn it. Although I will say the one piece that worked for me was maybe the most dissonant is the big organ piece. I actually loved that piece where everyone's playing different organ pieces at the same time, essentially. But yeah, this beeps and boops 70s.
We're in the modern age.
Star Trek-y. Yeah, I don't know. It was not the piece for me. And it's the main theme of the film.
But it's mechanical.
Yeah.
It's mechanical sounding.
Again, it's hard to condemn it because I get what it's going for. But I could look at the very clear sets and be like, this adds to this artifice that this character is. And I can see how this comes together. But I felt like the music took me out of it slightly, even though that's the point. Yeah, it's hard to describe, but I don't think it was fully successful in adding to the mechanical nature of it all, whereas the other elements, like the sets, like the smoke machines, all of that, I think did add to it.
I mean, I didn't enjoy it, but as you said, that's kind of not the point. It didn't bother me terribly. It definitely, yeah, I was like, oh, it is indeed the 70s. Nino Rota has gotten his hands on some electronic music, and he's pretty excited about it.
But yeah, even the electronic music in Tircon, I thought was like actually still sounding pretty good. And, you know, that was 9 years ago at this point. So I don't know. Or not 9. No.
69. Yeah, so 7 years.
Okay. So yeah, 7 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It didn't bother me that much, but that's too bad because yeah, it is it's prevalent. Again, it's garish just like the rest of the things.
Right.
I referenced earlier the sex contest.
Yeah, so there's this battle of the minds. The, you know, quote unquote civilized man in Casanova, the poet, the you know, whatever they say. And he's going to prove that he's the better lover because he can orgasm more in an hour than the brutish peasant that just has sex without thinking of high art, or I don't know. It was something like that. It's meant to be insane, and neither of them are meant to be having like wonderful sex. Although at least the lower class quote unquote man, the person he's having sex with, likes him, you know. Give him that. Whereas Casanova says like, oh, well, I get to pick who I have sex with. And yeah, he chooses this woman that just could not less want to be there. And she's raped for an hour and it's horrible.
It doesn't matter because the whole point of the contest is to see how many times the men can orgasm in 1 hour.
Right.
And yeah, that's all you need to know. If you think that is the test of a good lover, you are wrong. That is wrong.
Yeah, it is a quest for selfish love. And yeah, that's what they're rewarding in this society. So yeah, I mean, again, I like all of this stuff. I think this scene works really well. And I like that the camera lingers, like you said earlier, when this woman turns away at the end of the scene. For a moment, Fellini breaks character, so to speak, and shows some sympathy. It's cool. That's a good scene. I mean, it's horrible, but, you know, it's meant to be.
Yes, indeed. So there are all these women and girls. Most of them he clearly doesn't care about at all. And then there's one girl named Henriette. Looks like Henriette. And in the actual history of Casanova, she is kind of the one big love of his. And that's kind of how she's presented in this, at least ostensibly. They do both seem to have a connection with each other. Like she seems to care about him for the like one night that they're together. And he kind of rescues her and then she disappears. She like has to go. And he's like, oh, I'm going to find her. And then we kind of never return to her, which again, yeah, should have been very telling for me, I suppose, because that's the love of your life. And you think like, I thought, you know, okay, that's what we're doing next. It's going to be a quest. Like this will be his redemption or whatever. And that is what it would be if he were a hero, but he is not. So we don't ever return to her, and he just continues messing around with a bunch of random people, which is fine. That's not a bad thing inherently. I don't even think, you know, I don't personally think that if everyone's a consenting adult, I don't think that's inherently a bad thing if that's how you want to live your life. But you can't also spout these higher morals that he does, that, you know, he wants to be more, and that he is this great lover, and that, yeah, he's so sophisticated and poetic and all of that. So again, it's like he is presenting himself as one thing. He is self-defining as one thing, and then nothing that he does throughout really backs that up.
It's also, I mean, he's the stereotypical man that's been continuously rewarded for his bad behavior. Yeah, hypothetically, you should be able to hook up and it's fine, but we do know that a lot of people that engage in that culture are trying to fill a void, or that's all there is. And so yeah, he's that, you know, taken to an extreme. He's got nothing past the surface. And in modern times, he's the reason we got the 4B movement, you know. This person should not be having sex with anyone.
I think it's interesting too that the further along we get into his like sexual exploits, in the context of this story, the less human the people he's engaging in sex with are. Like later, before the doll, which we'll get to next, I'm sure, he goes to this inn.
This is an orgy.
I wrote down, you know, like Panic at the Disco. I wrote down orgy at the inn.
I don't think I would have realized that was going to be a Panic at the Disco reference had you not started with that one. But I hear what you're saying.
Good. That's why.
Was there an exclamation point? That would have made it work.
Oh yeah, that's why I said orgy at the inn. Orgy exclamation point at the
Fair
inn.
enough.
Panic at the Disco.
Yeah, he beats his match for a bit during this scene, which is quality. I enjoyed this sequence as well.
And initially it's like he's going to have sex with this hunchback woman. And then slowly, literally every person at the end is participating in some way in this. It is an orgy. And yeah, he's overtaken by them. And it's neat. And then he sees his mom immediately after that.
No.
Reality check. And then he meets the doll. He's at yet another place. I don't know. He is gallivanting around Europe throughout. He doesn't have any friends, too. That's pretty apparent. Like, he doesn't have real people who care about him. But he is, at another fancy place. And this guy has made essentially this automaton as a lady. I wrote down proto real doll, and he is so immediately taken with her. He's like, oh my gosh, her skin is the real color of skin. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And even this automaton is rejecting his advances. He like dances with her and is captivated with just her movement. It's incredible movement work also from this actress who's playing this automaton.
Yeah, I looked up her name just because I thought we'd have to shout her out. So Adele Angela Lotodice.
Big fan.
Is who plays the mechanical doll.
Truly disturbing work. And then, he also ends up assaulting her, in my opinion. She is a doll, so I guess you can't really say that. And, he's like trying to ask for consent weirdly, which he really never has up to this point. So growth, I guess. And obviously the doll is not answering. And then he just ends up having like very brief sex with her by manipulating her. Because again, she's a doll, and the movements she can make, she's like actively trying to resist him. Yeah. And it's really disturbing. It's one of the most disturbing scenes, in my opinion. And as you were saying, it's him kind of meeting his match weirdly, because it's this hollow mechanical thing that was clearly built for sex, because then we get a lovely shot of the doll vulva at the end. She kind of like spreads her legs mechanically. So it's like, whoever designed her for this purpose.
And that's his perfect lover. And like, as he reflects on women, in the dream sequence toward the end of the film, like that's who he ends up staying with, because that's what he wants out of a woman, is a doll.
Well, do you think that it's him choosing her, or do you think that it's...
Well, she's the only one that can't run away.
Yes. Okay, great. That's all I was going to say. Yeah, because all the other women either like fade away or literally turn away from him and leave. And then there's this doll who then he's doing the same dancing thing. Like it's a repeat of the previous scene, but in this dream sequence. And that's literally how the film ends. So you really can't argue with that. It ends with that, and then kind of flashing to just a close-up of him old with horrified eyes. So I think he's kind of realizing, oh, wow, my life is wasted. Because yeah, at the point that we see him in his old age, as you referenced, we have the I want my macaroni. Like you can just see old people at the home acting the same way. And then he tries to read some of his work. No one is interested. A couple of the other like servants put up a picture of him using their own poop as an adhesive on the wall. And he's like, this is so insulting. But he goes and shows everyone. So I don't know. I would hose that stuff down personally and not let anyone see that. But he's lamenting, like, how dare people treat me, the great Casanova, like this? But he has no power and he's a joke to everyone. He's an oddity in his old age and nothing more. And he's coming to terms with that. It's a bummer.
It's a good piece to talk about. Like the film constructs this narrative to show how ultimately hollow this life is. You're right. He doesn't have friends. He's going place to place. The women he has sex with don't actually want him. And he doesn't have anything beneath the surface. He's mechanical. And every element of the film enhances that. Like it is clearly not on location. It's clearly sets, and the soundtrack is very artificial. And I understand the artistic merit here. I wish, I need a little more, I think. Then it's all emptiness. Oops, all emptiness.
More substance, less time, maybe.
I think if a film is going to be, or any art is going to be about emptiness, it's very hard to make that your theme and not have the film feel a little empty, I think. I think that's what I struggled with here.
And I'm not sure how you accomplish this with this subject matter, but this is where I wish we had some character to contrast all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like you think about, have you seen Amadeus?
Yes. So good.
Yeah, in that we have Salieri contrasted with Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart. And it's about Salieri. Like the movie is about the downfall of Salieri. And I wish we had something like that.
Yeah.
To compare him to, because I think if you just had, well, the story doesn't really work, I guess, in Amadeus if Mozart isn't there, because it's like he's jealous of him. And that's not, Casanova's not jealous of any particular person. But something like that, something to show us, well, then what should we be instead?
Yeah. Right. I did think about The Wolf of Wall Street a little while watching this. That's a film about excess, and it's built into the runtime even. Like it's an hour longer than it needs to be because the thematic content of the film is that. But it still has those moments where it really lets the audience in. There's his first wife being like, is this really what you want? Is this who you are? And then toward the end of the film, there's the reveal of how the drug sequence actually goes. And another viewer might call that didactic, but I think it does help to just on occasion. And the most we get with this is that one shot that I talked about where the camera lingers on this woman as she turns away. But I do wish we had something more, I think.
Yeah, which again, I think if this is Fellini self-flagellating, I think it makes sense why we don't have that. Because why would he give himself a way out of this? Completely conjecture on my part, but I also think it's well supported considering all of his previous works are so often autobiographical in some way. Not Satyricon, I guess, which this is the closest to, as you're saying. But I can see if it's just, again, another like rumination on like, what is my life? Then why would he give that to himself?
It is sad. Like you've been talking about that. It's strange to see that at this point in his career, but it's also interesting coming off like Roma specifically was about him letting go of that. So if that is still here, it's like, bud, you gotta work it out.
Yeah. I mean, clearly like with Amarcord, he's ruminating about the past in a very different way, in a much more kind of positive way. So I can see him starting to return to that in a different way, like with Amarcord, and then this. People can have revelations and then backslide.
Well, sure. That's fair. You've out-woke to me. No, just kidding.
Let the man backslide. Maybe he read this autobiography and he was like, oh my God, I'm looking in a mirror. This is me. Uh-oh. Not saying I agree with that. I think this guy sucks way more than him. Maybe that's what it is. He's like, okay, I know I've done bad stuff, but like, look at this guy. What about him?
Yeah, maybe you're right, but it's also maybe, we're really speculating at this point, or at least I am. But maybe it's even just something that appealed to him subconsciously.
Yeah.
Maybe he wouldn't have put it in those words, but he's seen himself there. Interesting.
Definitely.
Well, I must ask, would you recommend the film?
I think I'm going to say no. Oh, man. It's hard. This is maybe the hardest one for me to say no to so far. Yeah, I think it doesn't quite work. I think it's pretty bloated considering what the ultimate message is, as you were saying. Unless you're like a costumer or a set designer, I guess. I think this is visually spectacular. And it's weird to see Donald Sutherland. Like, if you want to watch President Snow have the worst sex you've ever seen.
And you're the receiver. I can't stress that enough. I mean, it's such a shot. And it's done like 3 times.
POV, you're having sex with Giacomo.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, so no, I think no. But also live your life. Use your best judgment. Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, no, that's fair. I think this film, I feel like if I were to return to this in a year or 2, I'd like it more letting go of what's it all mean, because I know the film's conclusions at that point, that kind of thing. But as of the second, no. Especially, I mean, with Satyricon just a couple weeks ago, that film was, probably even had less narrative.
Definitely.
But just scene to scene, I think, was gripping. And this, I mean, there's so much of the exact same stuff. Like, Casanova gets somewhere, it's gross, the people there are gross, he has gross sex, he moves on.
We need to make sure the audience knows that he's bad at every type of sex. He's bad at regular sex. He's bad at orgy sex. He's bad at cuckolding sex.
Competitive ranked sex.
Competitive. We need to see there can be no doubt. Not even a sex doll wants to have sex with him.
But like I was saying earlier, like, it is a good film to talk about, and I absolutely appreciate this thing. When you talk about the amount of building to one theme, like, it is pretty impressive.
Mm-hmm.
So personally no, but also if what we've talked about sounds interesting, maybe just ignore my no and see it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The first 10 to 20 minutes, I think you'll get the idea. 10 to 20 minutes, skip to the end, you'll get the idea.
Yeah, just jump in occasionally. That's the movie.
Just pop in and that's it.
Oh, no. As intended. That's how to watch a movie.
That'll be my TikTok series. You know how the kids are watching whole movies?
Movie in 80
we'll do
parts.
that, but with Casanova, except I will actually pare it down.
If you agree or disagree with anything we've said here, if you're a big fan of the film and we missed some key thing that unlocks it, please write to us, retrospectivecinemapodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok at retro_sin, CIN. Annie just made a really cool TikTok for Roma where she paired our words with the actual scene in the film, and it's great. It's getting a lot of traction. Check it out. I made a very controversial review of Mortal Kombat 2. I thought I'd get some pushback, but goodness gracious, people are angry.
We knew we had some fans. We now know we have enemies. It's great.
People are mad at me. Anyway, you can see all that if you want on TikTok. We have Letterboxd. I'm at Ryan Loves Film.
And I'm at Annie Morell. And next week, we watch a film that I think I know what it's about based on the title, but maybe I'm wrong. Orchestra Rehearsal. It's 70 minutes. It's sure, what, we earned this after Casanova.
Easier to find too. It's actually available to rent some places, unlike Casanova, where you know how you got here, listener.
Anyway, whether you're going against our vague advice to not watch Casanova and watching that, go off, or watching Orchestra Rehearsal in preparation for next week, happy watching. Or watching all the horror. Hokum was not good. Okay, I'm going to stop recording.